What's up, everybody? How's it going? And welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Megaten. This is kind of like season two, I guess, starting with a special guest today. Lola, how are you doing today? I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming into the podcast. I was saying I actually invited you like last year sometime, and somehow we lost contact, and I forgot to ask you again. But I'm glad we actually were able to do this here. Intend to bring this series back again. So I was like, man, who can I invite that will be like a good guest? So I'm glad you're here today. And if a lot of people you started doing content a while ago and you kind of slow down a little bit, some people may not know you, so what's your elevator pitch? Like, how do you describe what you do in YouTube? Alrighty, well, you're actually one of the very few Megaten content creators, if you want to call them that, that I actually knew you before. How do I say it? I knew of you before I started doing YouTube. Like, how is that a good way to explain it? And it said I can't hear you. Let me check here what's going on here. Why can't people hear you? I need to know what's going on here. See, this is why I do chest tests before that, and I forgot, I guess, to do this one here. They should be able to hear you. What is going on here? All right, say something. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah,
Hello.
there you go. There you go. Like, much better. Okay. So what I was saying, I'm sorry. I apologize about that, guys. So Lola, I apologize. Could you give them a little bit of what you do here in your channel? I guess you have to repeat that again since they couldn't hear.
Maybe I'll say it better this time. I basically make analysis videos kind of from the scope of psychology or character analysis of video games. Usually Megaten because I love the Megaten series, but any video game I'm interested in. When I have time, I like making the videos essentially. And hopefully it sparks conversation and thought about the games.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually what I was gonna say. I got to know your I saw one of your psychology videos, and at the time I was actually studying psychology in college. So I was like, oh man, like because I had a similar idea for it, but I was like, oh, somebody did that idea, and I've seen a bunch of your videos. Actually, been subscribed to your channel since a while ago. You and there's another YouTuber, these Megaten content creators that are like the only two YouTubers of like Megaten or like Persona that I knew of. So I don't really consume a lot of like, although I play Persona and Megaten games, I don't really consume a lot of it, like content wise or anything like that. Um, but your channel is one of the ones that I actually knew of before I started doing YouTube or anything like that. So I do like your content a lot. That series that you did for like pretty much different characters and kind of breaking down their psychology is really interesting. Do you have any psychology background or anything?
Yeah, so I studied psychology for about 8 years. I never actually did finish my 4 year degree, but I did work as a clinical psychologist for 2 years. I had my name published on a few papers with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and I still really enjoy psychology. I've had a career change, but it's definitely something I'm still passionate about.
Interesting, really interesting. Actually, we have like a lot in common now because I did study 6 years of psychology, but I never finished my degree either. It's one of those things that you have to be like very passionate about. And to me, over time, although I enjoyed what I learned about psychology and everything, I was like, I need a different career.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, but very interesting. Was there something that maybe like you didn't want to do psychology anymore, or you doing something with psychology, or just something
Honest,
completely different? Because I am doing a completely different thing nowadays.
yeah, I'm actually studying system administration and cybersecurity.
Oh, right,
I
nice.
Yeah, I like a lot of different things. And I kind of discovered about myself. Everyone says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But for me, that's kind of like if you love what you do, what you love will become work.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I'd rather go to work, and I like computers, but I can leave that at work. With psychology, when you care a lot, it's very difficult to
yeah.
leave it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. There's also a lot of people that study psychology are very empathetic towards people, and the problem with that is when you're in kind of the space where you're always dealing with people's problems, issues, because in surface level you will think, okay, what you're doing for a job is just your job, right? But there's always like this I'll explain, like this underlying thing where you're like, it's almost like you carry that. Now that you have that weight of like, oh, this, you, some of the stuff that you hear from people are like tremendous, like they're like super shocking, or sometimes it's like really really sad, or like you're like, oh my god, like these people are dealing with some really crazy stuff. I
Yeah, and
even,
then you have
yeah,
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was gonna I was gonna say, and then you have things like I still think about a few patients, like specific patients, where I'm like, did I recommend the right thing? Because I did their clinical interview, I told the psychiatrist my opinion, and I still think about them. Like, was that the right decision? Did I make things worse? I don't know, and I don't think there's ever an easy answer for that because you're always just trying your best to help someone, but it does weigh on you. That was probably 6 or 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I still kind of think of that.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree that with that. The problem is psychology isn't like other sciences where there's no clear answer sometimes. A lot of diagnoses are very similar to others. And
Yeah.
sometimes like that misdiagnosis can really change somebody else's life. So even on that sense, you're like, oh man, did I like you're saying, like, did I do the right thing, or is that correct? There's always like this second guessing, but also like this sense of like, oh man, the way that you interact with certain people, to me is like carrying the weight of like what people tell me, and I'm like, I still think about it. Even my current job right now, which I no longer do psychology, but there is a lot of dealing with people's problems, and I do law. I work for a law firm, and
Okay.
a lot of the stuff that I do, like personal injury stuff. So all the time listening to like, a lot of times it's like traumatic stuff, or like really catastrophic auto accidents, or like very very sad like things going on. And I still like, to me, I still take like a psychology approach, that I'm like basically counseling these people on the phone, because a lot of the time people call, and when they call, they're looking for answers, right? Some people, well, almost like they want to have like their life solved, right? I think that that's a very big connection with psychology, because sometimes when people go search for like a psychiatrist or like a therapist, a lot of the times they think just going to one is suddenly gonna just change their life, and there's a lot of hard work that goes with seeking treatment for like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist or anything. It's not just you sit there and talk about. You kind of have to like retroactively work towards a goal, a particular goal or something, to make them feel better or to help them with that. And that's something that a lot of people don't get, right?
Yeah. It's definitely there's some truth to if you don't want to get better, you won't. And it's not from a place of being like, well, you just don't want it. It's the fact that you have to be so driven to self advocate because you're dealing with not only yourself, which is difficult enough, but also finding a professional that fits with you, that really listens to you.
Uh
All of
huh.
that's so difficult. So
Yeah.
you really have to have that drive. If you don't have that drive, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it can be very difficult, and it really takes a toll on both, I think, patients, and also whoever is helping them. Whoever the doctor or psychiatrist is. It's very interesting stuff. But I guess that we had a very interesting conversation so far. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming all to the podcast today. Really appreciate you guys all coming by. So really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions for Lola, feel free to drop those questions. Will be a Q&A at the end of the segment here. So just let us know any questions that you guys have, and we'll be happy to ask those at that time. So what got you into gaming? I guess.
Well, I guess I've always somewhat been into gaming. More PC, like Neopets was a huge thing for me. And I know that sounds silly, but when I
Not
was
silly at
9 or
all.
10, that was like, it taught me HTML and CSS, like the basics. It taught me basic restocking, which I still use when I'm playing things like 14, Final Fantasy 14. Um, but I never had a game console growing up. We didn't have that much money when I was younger. And then by the time we did, I was kind of a teenager. I chose to get a laptop instead so I could chat with people. It wasn't until I started dating someone when I was 19 and he had all of these old game systems. I was finally like, I can teach myself, because I was always really insecure about learning anything in front of anyone. So if I went to someone's house to play video games, I didn't really want to sit there and learn, because I'm like, I'm going to look stupid, right? But he had all these old systems. I started playing the older Pokemon games, and those got a little too easy. I got into Nuzlocke runs, and it kind of just spiraled from there, that kind of love of gaming.
That's awesome. Now, how did you get into Persona particularly, or Shin Megami Tensei? What did you play first, Megaten or Persona?
I played Persona first. I played Portable. Portable was my first game. If people actually do watch my channel, they know that I love the female protagonist, and it's also like my most divisive video for some reason.
Well,
Um,
interesting. Why did you like defend Portable, or particularly the female protagonist, or?
it's been a while since I've watched my own video. It's probably been about 3 or 4 years, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty diplomatic when I make my scripts. I don't really like being, I'm not like Simply Dad. I don't have that like edge, but I said that I really like the female protagonist, and that for me, I related to her more than the male protagonist. And it was really refreshing, because there's so many self-insert games where you play a male protagonist, and it's nice to have something that's catered well.
Oh yeah,
And
you know what? I remember that video. That video blew
yeah,
up, right? It was like one of your most viewed videos.
I still get comments on that video, because I'll get a notification every so now and then of it. And it's always just someone being like, how dare you? What is wrong with you? And I'm just like, I just said I liked a video game character. My bad. Like, all
Yeah, you
right.
can't have any hot takes on like that's, I don't think even think that's a hot take
No,
on.
not really.
I remember I did a video a while ago talking about wanting the next Persona protagonist to be a female. And I kept getting comments of people like, I can't play a game where I'm playing as a girl. I'm like, why not? like, like, what's stopping you from? And I get it. There's a lot of people that actually like to self-insert into games. I don't. I myself, I'm always very passive. Not very, yeah, very passive on games. So I always think of it as a third person. So
Right.
I'm not like I not the character. You know, the character is the character. Their decisions. Because sometimes some of the decisions are stuff that I wouldn't agree with. Like in Persona
Yeah.
5, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. Like, like, so like to me, like there's no way for me to like self insert myself into it. Maybe because I'm like we're older now, so like maybe that's a very big reason for me. Like Persona 5 particularly, it's just not a game that I was ever able to like self insert into. Maybe Persona 3, back when I was like 15, 16 when I played it first time. Maybe at that time I was like maybe younger and I could like feel myself as a high school student or something. Nowadays I'm like, yeah, I cannot self insert into games anymore. Maybe at some point I did, but now I really don't. Um,
I kind of see it as like a half insert, where it's I can relate a little more. So I kind of see it like, I understand if you aren't able to relate as well to a female protagonist. But to that, I say there's like 95% of games are male protagonist driven anyway. That's probably an exaggeration, but so if there's one, it's kind of like, okay, it's a new direction. Give it a chance.
yeah, I agree with that. I like to whenever I get a chance to pick between a guy and a girl, I play as a guy. and then I try to go back and play as a girl. So because sometimes their conversations are like very different, especially in Persona 3 Portable. It's like it's not. I think that's probably the confusion with some people. And the female protagonist, Minako. What was her other name? They gave her some other name, like Kotone or something. I don't know. I
Yeah,
still
there's
use Minako.
Katone, there's Hamako, which I think was also a fan one as well. So she has like a few. I don't know what they officially call her. Maybe we'll see something official when Portable gets its re-release.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
just she has a bunch of names, but I think a lot of people, because they haven't played as her, they assume it's just gender band Minato. Right. So like literally just
yeah.
main protagonist, male or female. Like no, but there's actually so many differences. Not only in like their conversation, but also like actual like personalities. There's like a very distinct personality with both characters. There
Yeah.
is different actions. There's different characters that you interact with, and it even different social links that I feel like more relatable to women. For example, there's the one social link where you only get as a female. She's like a librarian or something like that, and she gets
Oh
slut shamed.
yeah. Oh yeah,
And
she gets driven out of the school.
yeah, she gets slut shamed, and that's something that if you play as a guy, like you wouldn't really be able to like relate to it in like any kind of level, right? Guys don't get slut shamed, so in that situation, it's like how will Minato react to something like that?
Yeah, and I
Like yeah, go ahead.
oh sorry. I was gonna say one of the things that I think people forget because they're like, well, you can save Shinji. I mean, first of all, you can only do it in a new game plus route, and he comes back at the end for that like last scene where it's kind of the new game plus. You can pick someone who's not Aegis, and that's basically it. But people talk about how it ruins the theme of death, and to that I say like it does, but it's a different theme in that route. So if in her hair in her bobby pins, it has 22 in Roman numerals, which is supposed to be the fool at the end of the journey. So it's supposed to be different
Yeah, almost like a
rodents.
full circle. You'll say.
Yeah. And on top of the fact that there are social links that should be in the mail route. Like the fact that they didn't have it possible for you to have social links with like Junpei and Akihiko. Like I was playing through the game and I was telling my fiance, who's my boyfriend at the time, I was like, holy, like I did not like Junpei. He was being like completely misogynistic. He was just being, Junpei. But then you find out like all of this toxic masculinity that's in his life and that his dad used to basically like abuse him. And
Yeah,
my fiance never knew that because he never played that route. And I was like, that's a huge character. Like, why is he like that? That's a
yeah.
huge like it's just interesting. And I would love if they remade that game if they could add those routes to the mail route as well.
Yeah, that was one thing that I am glad that they fixed on like the other Persona games, like Persona 4 and Persona 5. You're able to have like more friendship with other guys and everything. Because I think originally Persona 3 was more geared towards like not a social sim, but like a dating sim, because
Yeah.
all the females that you talk to, including the teacher, are like potential romantic characters aside from like the little girl, right?
Right.
And in the flip side, all the male characters that you hang out as a female are potential romantic character, right? So I don't know. To me, I feel very conflicted about this because there's always this, especially in Persona 3, because it's locked on, right? No matter what your answers are, as long as it's not a reverse arcana, you're gonna finish the game dating all the girls if you finish all the social links. Like there's no like conversation about like should we date, or sometimes there's not even a lead up. That is one thing that we'll criticize. Sometimes there's no lead up to the romance. It just kind of happens at the end, and it's almost like an awkward like when did they started dating? Like, like when I don't know. Maybe because we can see that in like a very different outlook and everything. But there's, I don't know. I think, and people are I'm gonna get flack for this, but I think social links with the romantic aspects aren't really well thought out. Like they're just like so, they are not very well developed. It's like so like it's made from a perspective of someone that hasn't dated a person before. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It definitely feels like what a teenager would feel like romance will be.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just like because of constraints of the system, or maybe just like a very basic. But then I think there is a lot of dating sims out there in
That's
Japan.
true.
So I'm like, well, if those exist and they require you a lot of work. I don't know if you ever played a dating sim or like a reverse dating sim, like a harem sim. They require a lot of work. It's not just like you talk to them 3 times and they're your boyfriend. There's like the entire game is about dating them and everything. So I really would like to them, if they want to actually have like the dating sim thing. I really would like them to really like deep dive into it and like make it like even a storyline too. Because the other thing is that bothers me is when you date someone, you actually date someone, even Persona 4 or Persona 5, you date someone. And through the rest of the game, you're like, "Oh, you're such a good friend," and like everything like that. Like, yeah, we've been dating for like 6 months, but okay.
Wasn't there a scene in Persona 5? And I think it's like I might be remembering this wrong, but I feel like someone mentioned something about Joker being with one of the girls, and the girls act really awkward in the background, like
Oh,
it's
it's
supposed
Persona 4. Yeah, it's in
to.
Persona 4.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's and they all actually have different responses depending on who you say. But you can say whoever, even if you're not dating any of them. You can just say whoever. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't really feel really organic. Like, what if you were dating all 4 of them at that time? Like, there's no reaction to the other girls or anything like that. But I think the one that I seen the video of is like Rise. Like you're say you're dating Rise, and everybody else has like a really awkward like, oh really? But like there's like no additional conversations or not none of that stuff. Like nobody say anything. It's just kind of awkward, and I'm like, okay, well that is just awkward. Like, what would you not tell your best friends, right? Like, cause you're hanging out with these people every day. So I don't know. I love those games, but also there's also like level that I'm like when people are like, oh man, there's no way to improve Persona 5 is masterpiece. I'm like, I can think of a lot of ways to to add stuff, and I'm not saying it's bad. Like I think that
Whoa.
there's obviously things that always could have improvements, and the more games I play, the more I think so. Like I'll play like Yakuza. And I'm like, dude, if this was just in Persona, like that would be so good. And I'll play like some other random game. I'm like, this will be really cool in Persona. And I like that's why I started making a whole series of like things that I want in Persona from other games and everything. Because there's a lot of things that I'm like, this will work really well if they did it right. But that's the thing, right? They need to do it right.
I mean, I think you can love a game and still admit its flaws. But like one of the things that my fiance and I end up doing is we'll spend hours just talking about basically script doctoring games. Like we did that with Royal for like 4+ hours of why we didn't like the new content, what they could have done differently, what they could have adjusted within the realms of not changing a lot. And it's not perfect, but I mean, I also still love it. Like I can admit its flaws, but I also, like you said, there's plenty of games that do certain aspects better. And I think not encouraging a series to improve
Hmm.
lets it be stagnant.
Yeah, I think so too. And I feel like that's kind of where what I would like more of the rest of the fandom to agree on. You know, a game can have its flaws and you can still like it, but so many people focus on like, oh, this game is shit, you know, like or mid, right? But
Yeah.
now people say mid, and I'm like, well, mid is supposed to just be like middle, right? Like not average, really.
No,
Or
no, mid is more okay. This is where I assume the origin is from, and this is just from when I was growing up. If something was mid, you were talking about weed, which meant like it was low, cheap weed that like may or may not even get you high. It was just called mid. So whenever someone says mid, that's what I assume. Like it's not great. It's something you'll still buy because you want it, but it's kind of trash.
yeah, so it's kind of cheap, right? Kind of like what is the word I'm looking for? There's a good word for this, and I'm not thinking of it. Uh, Below average, I guess, right? Like just kind of just okay.
It's like a C. You got a
Yeah.
solid C on that.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I think. But some people use mid as like is horrible. Like it's the worst thing. And I'm like, no, that's not what meat is. Like at least to my understanding, but I don't know. I feel like a boomer having this conversation.
These darn kids. I mean, the millennials, like the youngest millennials, like what, 28, 27? Like,
Yeah. We're not like children, right? I don't know. Now I feel like having a hard time like knowing these terms that people use, and I have to know because people comment on the videos. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I remember the last time somebody said no cap, and I was like, what is that? I went to Google. I was like, what is no cap? And they say it's like no lie. I'm like, what? Why don't you say no lie? Like, like there's already a word for this. What is the point? It always gets me that the weird ones. There's some weird ones out there. I'm like, why? Like, I don't know.
yeah, the one that gets me is it's gas. So like instead of saying like it's lit, it's gas. It's like you got like that doesn't even sound cool. Like if you really think about it, it's like okay.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard that one.
Yeah. Well, now you learned something.
Yeah, now I've learned a new word that I have to remember. There was this thing maybe 10 years ago. There was this post that somebody did of a college teacher that kept a spreadsheet of every single new word he will see. Like a student will tell him a new slang for something, and he'll put it on the spreadsheet. Now I'm not. That's me now. I'm keeping track of the new fancy words.
I mean, I can't say anything. I mean, when I was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was saying stupid shit too. Like, I admit it. Like, it's always a trend, and some things stick, and some things are just don't. Just don't.
Some people just don't. Yeah, that it is true. Most of the phrases don't really stick for too long, especially now. Then it's like there's a new phrase every week, right? There's some new thing somebody's saying, and I'm like, oh, okay, I have to keep up with the times.
I definitely feel like that GIF from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I think, where they have, it might be It's Always Sunny, but they have like the cork board and all the string, and they're trying to like connect everything. And that's how I feel when I try to figure things out, because like I'm not on TikTok or anything, but that's like a huge part of kind of social media trends. So when I see a trend, I have to go to another trend to go to another trend. I'm like sitting there researching it, like trying to figure out
what is
where is this from.
Yeah. No, I feel that I have to do that sometimes too, especially because I am on TikTok. I started doing my content, but just on TikTok. Like TikTok format and everything. I figured, somebody recommended me doing that. I was like, I guess I can do it. I already do the shorts on YouTube, so it could be another. I can just upload the shorts on YouTube, and they do fine. But sometimes I get comments, and I'm like, man, these are like actual children. Like YouTube, I still have like a good majority over 18 following, but TikTok, I'm pretty sure most of them are like pretty young, but based on the comments alone, I don't know.
I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things is looking at analytics, just out of curiosity. So we'll be like, okay, my audience is generally between the ages of 18 to 24. It's 70% male, but then you get to see what they're watching it on. And my favorite was like, there's someone who subscribed to me. This is probably about 4 years ago, that always watched on their Wii U, and I just love that. Like, I was like, I'm so glad that, like, you're the one person who's using YouTube on your Wii
U. Right. Yeah. Sometimes I'll see that, and they'll be like, they watch it on, like, some third-party website or something like that. I'm like, is somebody sharing my videos somewhere? I always think that, like, whenever I see a video and one of the things is, like, Reddit, I'm like, uh-oh.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to know, and I don't want to find my video on some Reddit post, but somebody watched my video from Reddit. I always think that I'm like, oh man, is that good or bad? And I always check the like to dislike ratio at that point when I see that it's been shared in like TikTok or something, because I at that point I really want to know, like, is that bad? Like. You don't know. You don't know with Reddit. Sometimes you get like some pretty wholesome, like good reactions from there, but the majority of the time not so much. So I don't know. The only time that I've been there, like actually tried myself to be there, is very early on when I started my channel. like very very early on. I maybe had like
Yeah.
200 subscribers at the time, and I just wanted to be like, hey, well, how can I like grow my audience and everything? And I was like, I could just like share my videos on and Reddit, and I had like one bad interaction, and I was like, I deleted the post, and I was like, it never showed up there again. uh, yeah, it was actually like a Persona 5 video. It's actually one of my most watched
uh,
videos now. But I was doing like a tips video. But a Persona 5 Royal was coming out actually. I think that's what it was. And I did a tips video and I tried to share it there. And some people started attacking me because it was Persona 5. And I was like, yeah, it's Persona 5. But what I mean, what of it? Like, what's the point? What's the problem with Persona 5? You know, some people that really didn't want Persona 5 or like they like more Megaten or something like that. I was like confused about like their reaction. I was like, what are you saying? Like, I don't understand what you're upset. That's how I am sometimes. I'm like, I don't really understand the reaction of people sometimes
I
from
mean,
certain things.
there is a minor vocal minority that are kind of shitty in our community, and it's like 1%, but they're very loud. So, and it comes from people being so passionate and loving this series, and people being so passionate about the Megaten series. But I almost feel like that kind of friction, in my opinion, this is just a side tangent. I feel like that friction caused SMT5 to be very unfocused. The fact that they were afraid to be like Persona, but they wanted to implement some things, and they didn't want to, but they also wanted to appeal to Persona fans, and it just kind of felt like they ended up wishy washy instead of committing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's my biggest problem with Atlas right now on like pretty much everything, including Persona 5. Oh man,
Yeah.
now I'm like now I'm really shooting. Now shots fired. Yeah, I think there's a lot of a lack of like almost like commitment. Because even Persona 5, because I feel like Persona 5 tried to touch on some really important subjects, but every time that they will go there, they wouldn't fully commit to it. And
Yeah.
I hated that. I was like, every time, okay, you're talking about suicide, sexual abuse, like corruption, like some really like big subjects, right? But no, let's dumb it down to like, oh, adults bad. You know, I'm like, dude, like you have so much potential with like you have potential to actually do a good piece on like criticizing Japanese culture in the 21st century, right? In like many different ways, and the best you can do is dumb it down to adults bad.
Well, it was very cathartic when I first started playing the game, right? Because it came out 2017, and I started playing it the day it came out, and it was like 6 months after Trump was elected. And regardless of if you're right, if you're left, I'm not trying to get into like a political debate about that. It's someone who got elected despite, talking about being really predatory towards women, being like, grab him by a pussy. But he's going to get elected as an official anyway, because I don't think an official on either side should be saying something like that. But the fact it didn't matter, it was like, there was something very cathartic to be like, yeah, these adults are corrupted. Screw these adults, even though, I was adult at the time. But it didn't really delve in too deep. It started to, like, the first ads, like you were talking about, like
Yeah,
with Shio
yeah.
and everything,
Hmm.
and On and Ryuji, that whole first little act is so strong and actually does make a statement, and it just kind of waffles after. Like,
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
kind of,
and every time, and don't get me wrong, there's some stuff that they talk about later on that is really serious. You know, like stuff like abuse in the workplace. You know, like that
yeah,
whole thing with Okumura's was that Haru's dad, right? Where he's like
yeah.
this big McDonald's type of personality, and he has a bunch of employees that he doesn't care about. He sees them as robots and everything. That's like a big statement, especially coming from people in Japan, where that's like a really big issue. And
Well, even Psy, like what I learned recently was, I can't remember the term, but there's a term for a Japanese woman who's only going to work there for the first couple years, and then she's going to get married and she's going to stop working. And so when her boss says maybe you should take some time off, start dating, that's what they would tell people when they tell the women that when they got too old, they thought they weren't being as attractive anymore.
yeah,
And that was
I
a
forgot what
huge
they call
thing.
them. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's this actual term that they use for that, and I've completely forgot. But yeah, you're right. There's so many things that, and they're good. Like, I feel like it gets the message across, but it doesn't really do the attempt to actually make a statement about it. It's just like saying it. It's like almost feels like it's for impact rather
It
than
almost So my thing with Persona 5 and Royal. So at the end of Persona 5, you see that Shio's men still exist. And they're talking about what are they going to do that he's gone. But you see there's still this corruption here. And they kind of follow Joker to the airport. And I thought that if they had, a Royal edition, that they would follow through with that. That no matter who they defeat, there's always going to be corruption in the government. It doesn't matter they defeated one person, corruption isn't just that one person, like they alluded to at the end of Persona 5.
yeah.
But they didn't. They let that plot thread completely go, and that was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, even that's pretty funny you mentioned that because then at the end, like especially in Rojo, we're not gonna get really into big spoilers or anything, guys, but there is very much the idea of well, mementos is always gonna be there. There's always gonna be like a corruption to it, and I do like that they do address this in a sense when they talk with Kasumi. There's like a conversation between Akechi, Kasumi, and Joker, and she's like, well, yeah, but like there's only like you can't really control society, right? Like there's only so much you
Yeah.
can do as far as like that's I guess like the limit of the Phantom Thieves, right? And
And it's so weird to me they didn't use Kasumi as a neutral route, like
yeah, that could
past
have been
that.
such a that was such a way that was I feel like that's what a lot of people's issue with Kasumi is, not per se of like the blandness of her personality of anything like that. I just feel like they had so much potential, especially earlier on, because they made a big statement about it whenever they were advertising for her. They were like, oh, she's Kasumi. She doesn't necessarily join the Phantom Thieves, and she kind of has her own points and everything. And um, the Cookie Gamer says they kind of did that with Strikers, right? Kind of not really. That's kind of like that's also my issue with Strikers. They
Okay, don't spoil the ending of Strikers though, because for some reason I haven't finished the last palace. Just as
oh
a
okay.
heads up.
Oh no. Everything that you've seen in Strikers is still not. There's no not nothing that will spoil you.
Okay.
No, I just feel like Strikers steer the port farther on that direction, but there's no resolution to it. Like the
Right.
Memento's still a thing. Like, like
I do like Striker's story a lot, though. To be fair.
yeah. I my only problem with Strikers is how it doesn't really connect with Persona 4 Arena storyline because it's very similar. Um, the government institution that is pursuing the Phantom Thieves is the same government institution that has the Shadow Operatives. So,
Okay.
so they should know about the personas of the shadows, Uh, and they should have like a whole group of people to deal with personas and shadows and that stuff. So I'm
I mean,
like,
I guess you could say that if you wanted to stretch it, the Ultimax universe is the same universe as Royal, and Strikers is only in the Persona 5 universe. Like, maybe you could try to, like, justify it that way.
yeah, the way justify it is, and this is gonna be the cop out they're gonna do. They're gonna say, okay, Shido was very corrupted. He took out all the good people from it. So maybe that's why. That's my interpretation of it. Maybe Shido did change too many things, right? I'll
That's
like
true.
maybe because he knew about shadows and personas and all that shit, right? He knows about
Yeah.
the metaverse and everything. So maybe that's the first people he got rid of because you do know that he got a lot of people killed, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that's my assumption. Like that's just me trying to like connect the dots. I'm like now that you were saying the meme with Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the guy being crazy trying to connect the dots. Yeah, that's me now.
I think that's everything with the Megaten series, to be fair.
I don't know. Some people hate doing like talking like canon spoiler talk and everything, and then some people aren't love arguing about it. I remember Persona 5 when Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5 Strikers came out. People were arguing whether Strikers was a sequel to Royal or Persona Vanilla, and I'm like, it's the same game. Like you, arguably speaking, Royal, other than having new characters, there's no change in plot. Like it's still the same plot. At the end,
Yeah.
it boils down to the same thing at the very end of the game. Joker still lives lives Tokyo. Everything's still the same. They still fought the same bad guy. There is an additional plot element, but none of that takes away from Persona 5. Like it's still the same game. That's
I
why
mean,
it.
what I
Yeah.
found. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say what I found so interesting was I don't know how many people know this, but Persona 5, when it was originally in development, was going to be a road trip. And
Right.
they were gonna go all over Japan, and then
Hmm.
that changed after um, this tsunami essentially.
Yeah.
I think it
Probably
was a
after they were
tsunami.
going bankrupt.
Yeah. Well,
Because they were
they
going
wanted
bankrupt at that
to.
time, so they probably didn't have the money for a big game where they can travel over. But that would be a great idea, though. I would like an actual like over the world kind of thing. That would be the biggest thing, right? Because they gone from small city to little town to the Tokyo. So what's next, right? The
Yeah.
world.
But I know they changed it because they wanted to basically make the theme about the government corruption and everything after all of that happened. So it's kind of cool they revisited the idea of strikers of them going on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
mini road trip.
Yeah, that was easily my favorite part about it. Looking at places that I seen too, like whenever I saw Kyoto, I was like, oh my god, I've been there. It was like such a cool feeling when I was playing. And I was actually close to the time when I came back. So I came back, then like a year later, the Strikers came out, and I was like, it was like a cool idea thing of like, oh, but like especially through COVID, right? Because you can't really travel or anything. So that was like the cool experience of like, oh, they're going to all these different cities. They go to Sendai, and they go to many other places. You're like, wow, like this is really selling you in like the idea of like traveling around Japan. There's like this stranger to it and everything, but it's still like a cool like trip traveling thing. It was kind of fun. I really liked it. In some ways, there are some ways that definitely. So why have you not finished the game? Like, is you just forget, or you kind of like, it's whatever.
Honestly, I was enjoying it so much I didn't want it to end, so I stopped playing it at the time. And then I just never got back to it. I've played other games since. Played most of Devil Survivor since. I've played SMT5 since then. I've played 4. I played 4 before that. I might have played 4A after that. I can't remember the order. But basically, I was just enjoying it. I didn't want to end. I stopped, and then I forgot to go back to it.
Yeah, you should at least
Basically,
finish it. I don't think he
I
has like
should.
this. My problem is that it doesn't really have like this really big like like because to me it felt like it needed to be something bigger than Persona 5. Like Persona 4 Royal, like they had to have like a bigger ending or wrap up or anything, but it really didn't have that. So it's just like okay, so it's okay. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You're still gonna enjoy it. It's still good.
I
To
mean,
me,
I really like what's his face. I'm so bad at names, but the new party member, and he's the agent who's working for
the
them, and he
the
has the whole thing with his
adult.
daughter.
Yeah, what is his name? Wolf, right? The Kenichi, Kenpachi, something with a K.
We're saying this like we don't have Google. Like,
I'm over here trying.
let's see. Let's see the party members. Playable characters. Oh, it doesn't list it here because. Oh yeah, it is Senkichi.
Tenkichi,
That's
there
it.
you go. I was so close.
But I loved his character. I loved his little story arc. It kind of reminded me of Dojima, but maybe like a little healthier. Like I
Not so
really
toxic
enjoyed
relationship.
it. Oh man, the amount of people got so mad at my Nanako video because I kind of like
You
went
were
a little
calling out.
extra with it. It
You were
was a bit
calling
of a
out
joke.
Dojima because Dojima at the end of the day is a good dad. It's just like there's a lot of layers to his character. You're kind of like, yo, that's kind of, but at the same time, you that's the thing about it that I feel kind of iffy about. A lot of people will defend it as well. This is kind of part of Japanese culture. I'm like, yeah, but you also can have to look at it like, is it still okay just because it's Japanese culture? I feel like that's like a completely very subjective video too, right?
It's also a little extra. Like it's not uncommon for a 5-year-old to be by themselves, but for the amount of time that he does it and at night and the way he is so obsessed with her mom's killer and he's not giving her any attention, that it is overboard. He's going through stuff, and I'm not saying he doesn't love her, and I'm not saying that he's like the worst dad in the world, but I think there's this like impulse to be like, well, if you say anything wrong, it means that he's a terrible parent and like he's the worst person in the world, rather than being like, Yeah, he's not in a great place, but that's part of his story is that he's not in a great place. And if you're not in a
Yeah.
great place, it affects your relationships.
It does, and I do like that you as a protagonist kind of call him out on it a bit,
Yeah.
and he you see by the end of the game that he's trying to be a better dad, and like
Yeah.
I like that. I think that even if you want to defend the character, because I do think he's a great character, I do think he has a lot of good qualities to himself. I like that the game addresses things like that in the game. It's not like the game isn't what do you call that? Like it's the not just not aware of it, right? Because they do use it as a plot in the game, and
Yeah.
especially through Nanako's story, but also through Dojima's own social link too. He do, there's like when they have these big arguments, so you can kind of call him out on it and everything, and he does kind of apologize about it, and he knows that he's self aware about it, which I like. I like when games are self aware of like the character's flaws, because you can't be just a fan and be like, oh, this character I love him, but I'm like, if the game is self aware, you can't just defend it. You know, like because the game itself is kind of calling out on it. So I feel like it's fair game if the game knows that it is wrong, and he brings it up, then it knows that it's wrong, right?
And honestly, perfect characters aren't very interesting in media, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't give us anything to work with. If someone's perfect always, I mean, it can be fun and fan servicey,
Yeah.
but
Example like Persona 4 main protagonist Yuna Okami. He's basically perfect in in the anime, right?
I
He
mean,
does
his
no
flaw
wrong.
is that he's at 11. I mean, he's not actually at 11, but he's the most characterized because of the anime, because of all the extra supporting content, and Johnny Young Bosch just being, Johnny Young Bosch. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, but they do have a kind of have like this like charisma. He has like some kind of charisma. I don't know how they give him the charisma that he has. Because if you play Persona 4 Vanilla, he's like no character. He's basically a
Yeah.
self insert. But
I actually haven't played Golden yet. I've played Vanilla 4. I
yeah,
played Vanilla 4 years ago. I'm kind of waiting for it on Switch, to be honest. I own it on Steam, but I just rather play it on Switch.
no,
But
I
yeah,
don't blame you.
he's not much of a character in
Yeah, but
Vanilla.
in the rest of the other games, they give him like so much more personality and charisma. And I'm like, wow, they really like amp up his character. I think the anime did a lot of favors to him though.
Yeah.
Because personally, if I will argue that he's the character with the least personality out of the series. Although I don't know, Minato has kind of a personality in the game. But yeah, I think that is a good stark contrast with the other. Every protagonist is different, but kind of the same. That's why I don't like self-insert characters because they feel samey, and I want to feel like I'm a different person in a different game, right? Uh, I always feel like I want a character to have like their own ideals or their own personality, like their own goals they're going towards and everything. Which is kind of why I like Joker because at the beginning you do kind of see that he has really strong feelings about certain things. You know, I mean, like the whole setup, right? He sees this woman that is being attacked by this gentleman or this guy that is a drunk, and he doesn't know who the guy is, but he goes and helps, right? So I feel like that does enough to kind of give you a window like the personality that he has. Just the game doesn't use it enough.
Yeah.
It kind of wants to go both ways, and I hate that they do that because you can go both ways. In
Well, it's like being able to date everyone as Joker seems incorrect to me. And I'm not saying like incorrect is like wrong, but it doesn't seem like in the character that they present. But you can have those options because it is technically self insert. And granted, I did do that because I'm a completionist. But, it doesn't see as someone who's like justice shouldn't be like, but I'm also going to date 12 women, including my teacher.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because it does feel kind of really weird and almost like out of character. Although I don't know how you feel about the whole dating the teacher and the other characters and everything. I don't know. To me, I just take it as a anime cliche thing, not much, just more of like oh they're trying to make a statement about dating the teacher or anything.
Well, I'll say this, like you had said before, where sometimes the romance just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like Kawakami's story builds up to a romance. It just feels like an option. And to me, that seems more like a fan service option and not something that is reflective of her character, because her character clearly shows how much she actually cares about students.
Yeah,
And
yes, you
it's
clearly
kind
see.
of
Yeah,
weird.
it doesn't really make sense. Some of them are like that, like the what's the name of the Ohia Ohaya? What is that? Ohias?
Oh yeah. I always called her Oh yeah,
Oh
but I don't
yeah,
know if that's actually
I don't know.
right.
Oh yeah,
Amanda Winley,
yeah.
essentially.
The reporter, that is the one relationship that I'm like, I don't ever see it happening, like in any kind of sense of the thing. They clearly have a almost like a Batman. What do you call the other guy, like informant with like you're the superhero and informant, right? It's not really
Yeah.
like a relationship of like friendship or like any of that, right? It's really just like he goes to her for like phantom thief business, basically, right? So in my mind, I'm just like, I don't understand why this will be a relationship,
Oh yeah.
because I don't see it happening.
I mean, she's the Devil Arcana, right?
Yeah,
I feel
she's a
like that
double
makes
kind of.
sense. But I mean, the one thing I actually was disappointed by is the fact, they're very against underage drinking in Japan. But like, I really wanted there to be drinking in that social link. Like, I liked the idea of her getting Joker drunk to try to get
Information and
stuff from
stuff.
him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's how I saw it. That's how I saw it. It was more like a business relationship, right? So that's how I saw it in my mind. And then she's a dating option, which made no sense, but I guess in a sense, I guess maybe, but I don't know. But the drinking part will be kind of interesting. I think it will present like another side of like the world, right? Especially like what she does for a living and all that. Will be very interesting. Now, speaking of drinking, are you excited for Soul Hackers 2? Are you gonna play it? Are you checking it out?
I am excited. I'm very excited based off of some of the director interviews. I'm not excited about the whole DLC day one thing. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
But I am. I like the fact that this director who did uh, Radiata Historia. I like the fact that he talked about, battle systems being fully implemented. He worked on the battle system for Nocturne, even though I know it's going to be an easier game. I'm sure it'll feel really nice. I liked the review from someone who's basically the last dungeon who said he really loved the story. I mean, grain of salt, you never know until you play it, but it's nice to hear that there are those things. I'm excited to play a game with a bunch of adults, which I feel like is a theme of our conversation.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, when I played Catherine Full Body, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed
yeah.
hearing those adults' plot lines, and I don't mean like adult as in sexual, but just not the same teenage issues. And as well, much as I like a good building roman, like a good coming of age story, I also really enjoy the way Atlas tackled bigger
Adult
issues.
problems or yeah, some bigger issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the cool things about it is when I was looking at the video presentation and stuff. So there is something like social links, but not really social links. But it happens at the bar. So there's the bar that you
Yes.
can hang out, and you basically have like a one-on-one, or actually I don't know if it's one-on-one or multiple people, because I've seen on the videos that you see them drinking multiple times. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's like if they all hang out together or if it's like one-on-one. But I've seen on the video both, so I'm thinking that it's gonna be both, but don't quote me on that. I'm just my mind is like, okay, maybe they hang out there long enough that they are hanging out as a group, but also like as individuals with like a friend or something like that. And to me, that's like one of the cool things that I liked about Like a Dragon, because Japan has a really big drinking culture. As
Yeah.
adults, it's like that's where they bond a lot. So
You
like,
drink with your boss, even if you don't drink, you drink
yeah,
with your
yeah,
boss.
exactly. And not just that, but you drink with your friends, drink with
Yep.
your classmates, you drink with your coworkers. And that's like a very like Japanese thing that they do, and I like that a lot because it does. I feel at least in the United States there is also a drinking culture, not as big as in other countries, of course, but but it's really interesting. I like that. I'm like, yeah, at least that gives a like more adult sense, I guess. I don't know. They did release they sent out these really cool care packages for some lucky people that did you see that they sent out these
Yeah.
really cool
I was so jealous. It
Yeah,
looked
me
really
too. Me
cool.
too. I was like really jealous. I emailed Atlus to see if I could get one. I was like, can I get one? Anyway, one of the things that they sent out is a mixed drink named after Ringo, with a bunch of stuff and everything. I wish I could share all this with you guys here, but I don't want to get in trouble for talking about like sharing things that I'm not supposed to. I don't know. Well, people posted pictures on Twitter, so I'm sure it's
They
fine
did.
to like show it. But anyway, so they would came with a little card with like a drink mixture and everything. So I'm like, I wonder if that is a big thing of the game, or because we just you do see them drink a lot. So I don't know. I don't know if that's part of the game or something like that. But it is kind of cool. I like that.
I'm definitely excited. I'm excited about it being like the post-apocalyptic Tokyo. Like I was a little disappointed with the aesthetic because I really like the aesthetic of the original Soul
Hmm.
Hackers. I like that 90s grunge type
I
cyberpunk.
yeah, I like that too. I love that 90s 80s cyberpunk aesthetic more. I don't like the neo cyberpunk because it's like it's cool, but I don't like it too much. But you look at like Ghost in the Shell or like what do you call that other Cowboy Bebop, you know,
Yeah.
like or even like old like SMT stuff. Like I love that cyberpunk aesthetic. Like it's so beautiful. Like I love that style. It's really cool and appealing to me. And this one, it's fine. Like I don't hate it or anything like that. Uh,
I mean, the textures look great on the
yeah.
demons. It's going to be a very nice looking game, but personally speaking, I agree. I'm disappointed that by the time we're getting these 3D Megaten games, we're not getting that old like 90s like eyeliner style, which kind of sucks. I really liked the older games, but I am excited we are getting more apocalyptic Tokyo because I was thoroughly disappointed with SMT5 and its overworld just because of the fact I was really looking forward to seeing something like SMT4,
It
but in
was
like beautiful
basically yeah,
graphics.
it was basically just Shin Megami Tensei 3.
Yeah,
It was basically
which is
Nocturne.
fine, but
It's just
but
like
I was so
sand
looking
and
forward to
like
that.
yeah, yeah. I know, I get it, I get it. And it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was pretty. Like it was beautiful. Like the apocalyptic SMT5 that we got, Tokyo, it was fine. Like it looked great. Like graphic wise, it was pretty cool. Like surfing on the sand with your long hair waving on the background and everything. Cool shit. But also very boring to look at.
Yes.
Like
Well, I was looking forward to like empty office building stuff. Like you have like the warehouse with the King Frost, was really cool, and some of that. I like using the actual landscape of Tokyo, but because it's all covered in sand, there's a lot that we don't get to
yeah, I think
use.
there's a difference though because it does have a different feeling of when in the time period of an apocalypse we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Because in SMT3 and SMT5, it's kind of like the apocalypse happened and that's pretty much the end of that, right? But in SMT4, the apocalypse happened, but people survive. So there's like there's societies, there's like groups of individuals that are still trying to survive. But in SMT5, for example, or SMT4, I'm sorry, SMT3, there is none of that, right? There's no humans basically. It's just you and your mission, right? So that does kind of have like a different feel to it in in the world, I guess. Because
yeah.
I did love in SMT4 like the different camps of people. They have different clothing too. Although obviously 3D in the 3DS you can barely see their clothing and everything. Well, they are supposed to wear different clothes and everything. The Ring
And
of
their story
Gaia.
progresses as like the game goes. So if you go back to those random NPCs,
Hmm.
like there's like you see like two. There's like a woman and then a man, and they end up like in the same room, and then they end up as a couple. But you don't really see that unless you go and talk to them. I miss stuff like that, like little background like things that make the world feel alive. Even though it's like pixel art, like you said, you can't really see them. But yeah, I miss that. I was playing SMT5. My kind of guess partway through the game was that maybe they like you and your companions are actually the only people, and everyone in the Tokyo that you're from is just part of a simulation. and that's why you guys are the chosen ones. That wasn't the case, but I kind of still wish it was. I feel
I
like that would have
really,
been a little more
yeah. I
interesting.
think what happened is, and looking at interviews, I was talking to LaRue about this, but there seems to be like there was a lot of behind the scenes problems with the game.
Yeah,
Like,
and the engine.
not only just the engine, but also like the development team. There was like, there was the old people that have been working on Megaten since the beginning. Well, there's also a lot of new blood because now like a lot of the team is gone or they moved on into other projects and stuff like that. So a lot of the new blood wants to do new things. So there was like a big divide between the two kind of, I don't want to say factions, but within like the two groups of people, as far as like what they wanted to do. And I feel like it really does show like how a wishy-washy it was in themes and tones and styles and writing and everything. I'm sorry, I'm like knocking on the game so much, but I loved it. I really liked it.
It was
But
fun.
yeah, it was fun. It's just that when you played games like Shin Megami Tensei 4, you're kind of like the next game in the series. Kind of you expect at least that level of care and writing. Because to me, I still hold those games like Strange Journey, a Nocturne even. I do hold them pretty high as far as like the kind of games that I played for Megaten. So when you play those and then you go and play this, you're kind of like, okay, this is very different. And not just like in like in the terms of writing itself, it just feels very different.
Yeah.
It's still Megaten, and it does have the demons and all that, but it definitely seems like something changed. I'm looking at Soul Hackers too, from the previous and everything. You can see that it's also gonna be different, but I feel that's fine. It doesn't carry the Shin Megami Tensei name. In fact, it doesn't even have the Soul Hacker, not Soul Hackers, the Devil Summoner name. So I think there is gonna be an attempt to separate, to make it like its own franchise. I think more. You can tell from like the trailers and everything we've seen so far. They definitely want to try to even make its own like franchise out of it, like, its own new persona, I guess, if you will.
And I'm
Uh,
excited because, like, regardless of personal opinion of the aesthetic and whatnot, it feels like they committed. They committed to a vision and the thing they want to do and the story they want to tell. So that's what I'm excited about for
yeah,
Soul Hackers
yeah.
too, is that it is new. It does do different things, but it feels like they were inspired to do it. It wasn't, we have to go make this SMT game. It was, we have an idea for this game. We want to bring back this franchise. We have a new idea for it. Apparently, there's going to be Easter eggs from the first one, so it sounds like the developers did at least like have like an appreciation for the first one. Hopefully, themes carry over, but it definitely feels like a passion project.
Yeah, it does. It does at least seems like they tried to do that. I don't know. I'm still very excited about it. I think that that there is a lot of good things that we've seen about it and everything, and I hope that it gets it enough of its own thing. You know, not just Persona, not just Shin Megami Tensei. Although, get ready because I can already tell. You know, I can imagine. You saw the previews. There was a preview that you shared, I think, on Twitter. That was literally like somebody already talking about Persona, and like compared to Persona, right? It was the dumbest title too. It was like, Soul Hackers is the persona of Shin Megami Tensei's Persona. Was that right? Something like that.
It was something that was a little less like that. I made the joke about it because I got what they were saying, but it was a little kind of getting ridiculous with the
It was like
comparisons.
redundant, right? Yeah. So you know, it happened a lot in Shin Megami Tensei 5. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want to see when people release stuff what they're gonna do. Like, like I want to see those crazy articles. I know it's gonna happen already. So, I can imagine like the backlash and everything. That's the game hasn't even come out yet, and we only seen the previews and everything. But I know there's gonna be people out there comparing it to Persona, and I don't know. I get tired after a while because everything gets compared to Persona nowadays. Like
And I
a new JRPG comes out and it's Persona, right? It has to be Persona.
And I'm sure that when they get their press kits, they probably part of the buzzwords they say is like use a persona buzzword, use this buzzword. Like it wouldn't surprise me if that's something Alice said because it is good for search engine optimization. Like yeah, at the end of the day, it is,
At
and
the end of
it
the
like
day,
it sucks
yeah.
to be that bitter, but it. I mean, They
No,
are still a
and I
company.
can't blame them. I use the hashtags whenever I use the tags whenever I talk about Soul Hackers. I put Persona 5 Royal on the tags. I put Shin Megami Tensei in the tags. I do, like,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not comparing it to it, but at the end of the day, I guess you kind of have to get the clicks, right? Yeah,
well,
somebody
and
got
then
called me out about it one time. I think it wasn't actually a an Atlus game, but it was a game called Monarch, which was made by the creators of Shin Megami Tensei 1 and If.
right.
So I did use Persona 5 and Shin Megami Tensei 5 tags on, and somebody called me out, and I was like, all right, I get it, but also like if it's like an indie JRPG, like how am I gonna like get
No one's
people to
searching for
watch?
it.
Yeah,
Like,
nobody's searching for Monarch, But if you hear, hey, Monarch is a game made from the creators of Shin Megami Tensei, now you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I kind of have to check it out now, right? So that's kind of that was my thought process of it. When they call me, I was like, yeah, I'll take it, Sure. I used the persona word. I used the P word. I'm sorry.
well, one of the exciting things about Soul Hackers that I was like, this is more like a personal why I was excited about it, was the fact that they're bringing back Jack Frost that haven't been in the game for a while. So you saw, I think there's like strawberry Jack Frost. There's all these fruit Jack Frost. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
say
yeah.
they were in Devil Survivor 2. I'm looking real quick. I feel like they were in a different one as well. I don't know if I'm even on the right page. Probably not. Strawberry Jack Frost. Yeah, they were in Demi Kids Light and Dark originally, it looks like. And then it was in, I can't remember what else it was in, but it's going to be back for Soul Hackers. And I love Jack Frost. So anytime we get like
Yeah.
a Jack Frost, like I miss Lucifer Frost, like that's a really cool Jack Frost as well. Anytime we get Jack Frost back, I know that's
Yeah.
not even a big deal, but
No, no, no. It
I'm
is. It is.
excited.
It is because he is like the mascot of like Atlus and everything. Now I want to call out Atlus real quick about this one. I'm very upset because I don't care about any of the DLC. Like you will never hear me like bitch about it. But the one that I'm very upset about is Iho, which is the Ringo Jack Frost that they did. You guys see the picture, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She's a special demon, and she's only gonna be available if you buy the premium digital edition. And I bought the physical collector's edition, so I won't get it. And I'm
Yeah,
very
that's
salty about it.
ridiculous.
I'm very salty about it. I'm like, I want Iho. Like, it's funny because I'm gonna get a figure of Iho. Like, it comes with a figure, but I can't get the actual like demon in the game.
I know, it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's Atlus being Atlus, right? They've been
Yeah,
pretty. I don't love it. I don't like condoning it. Unfortunately, I probably will pre-order it because I'm a Jack Ho Ho. Like I'm going to get
yeah.
Jack
You're like, I
Frost,
have to get
but
it.
but I hate that they're exploiting me like that. I know what they're doing, and I hate it.
Yeah,
And I think that if you're against it, you shouldn't. But at the same time, I do want all the Jack Frosts. So.
yeah. No, I get it. Because I feel the same way about it too. I'm like, it gets me very upset. I'm like, oh, I already pre-ordered one. Am I gonna have to buy 2 copies of it, or like, like what am I gonna do now with this? It's okay. I'm already buying like 3 copies of it anyway because I have to give one away. So I'm like, Atlas is really already getting my money. Every time that I buy one of these games, I always buy like at least 1 or 2 copies of it. So I'm like, so whenever they announce Persona 5 Royal for PlayStation 5 is $60, I was like, yeah, I'm not buying this one. I bought so many copies of Persona 5. Like at some point I have to stop myself from continuously buying this game.
I feel that.
Like I'm not buying more of this. If Atlus gives me like a review copy or something, I'll be like, all right, I'll play the game for a review, right? Maybe I play it on PC or Switch or something. I'm not gonna play it on PlayStation again, though. I mean, I have no need to.
Especially since they're reselling it, whereas like other games give you like an upgraded version if you have a PS5.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, it just I don't know. It feels kind of weird, but it is what it is. I guess it's part of being an Atlas fan. You always get a short of end of the stick, and you somehow still buy the games and everything. It,
I
I
mean,
don't
at
know.
the end of the day, they still have some of the best turn-based JRPGs for modern games.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, people still buy the games and they still make good games. Regardless of how people feel about it. I think they still have really good quality on them, and I mean all the DLCs at the end of the day just DLC. Like none of it is like cut content or like missing actual like features or anything like that. Even if you do feel shitty about it and all that, you're kind of like, all right, well at least it's not some really shitty pay to win. Like oh you have to pay money to be able to finish the game or something like that. Like some other companies do.
Yeah,
Uh,
the only one that was particularly egregious, I think, was SMT4A with its optional dungeon, and then you had to buy the DLC boss for the end of that dungeon. But then to beat that boss, you had to buy a different DLC demon so you could have like Affinity Pierce.
oh yeah, I
That
I never
that
went that
was a
far.
great. No, that one was. I didn't actually buy those DLCs, but that
Yeah.
one I think is like, even though it is still side content. So it's like you said, it's not like particularly taking out the experience. It just sucks when, especially when the hardest boss. So like when I played SMT5, I didn't find any of the bosses too difficult in the game. Like I thought that, which fight was it? That was technically the hardest one in the vanilla one. I can't remember. Was it Vati? I think so.
What
But
was it?
you had to
SMT
be
five
level. What's up?
in SMT 5 or is it in Apocalypse?
Yeah, SMT5.
Oh,
Sorry.
what was his name? Shiba.
Yeah, Shiva.
Yeah.
So he was probably the best fight in the game. It was balanced, but it was strong. But it was
Yeah.
the only fight that I felt like I had to really try. And I don't mean that as a brag. I just mean that it
No,
sucks
it is. It
that.
is. I totally agree. It took me hours to beat him. Like that was the only part where I was like, I have to go back and fuse my demons again because I had really like almost to that point. I didn't really like. There's two types. There's two parts of Shin Megami Tensei, right? There's like the I just get whatever demon I can right now, and I'll just wait. As long as I have my buffs and debuffs, and maybe like a demon that does some healing or whatever, right? But then there's the actual legitimately good fights where you're kind of like, okay, well I have to like actually fuse and think about like the different combos that I need to do with the rest of the demons and everything, uh, which is kind of sad to say because previous Shin Megami Tensei games were always like that, right? Where you
Yeah.
kind of had to think ahead of like, okay, so my future fusions, I need to keep the skills, or I need to focus on this stuff, and there's always like this part of you that you kind of that you have to plan ahead for future battles and everything. But yeah, 75, you just go through the game with whatever demons, and you can't just do that. Even
I
if you're
mean,
level 99.
I did optimally fuse, but it also kind of made things a walk in the park because of that, which was kind of sad. But because like I remember the first fight in SMT4, like the first real boss fight, um, is one of the greatest fights because I went there, I lost, and I went, I need to go fuse the right demons. So I went and I caught the right demons, and I fused them, and it was fine. And I mean, as a side tangent, that's also why I think SMT4 is, I love the experience of it, and I wish that they implemented more of the system in 5 as far as the comp, because I think fusing while you're battling, like, and not necessarily the skill that lets you fuse in battle, but while you're
Okay.
in between battles, you're on the field, you're catching a demon, now you're going to go fuse it. Going back and forth is a really
Yeah.
nice gameplay loop, and I
Hmm.
don't like having to go back to Sophia because it's fine. It's just it makes me put it off. It's
Yeah,
like, well,
it's
I
like
don't want to
why?
go
Like
fuse. I
why do you need that basically? Yeah, totally agree with you. There's a level of like I don't really need to do this, and there's no reason to do it. In a
Yeah.
sense, it almost makes it feel like you're really just wasting time. Like it's like because it's not just any bad thing, but think of it's you're in one screen and then you have to load up and then you have to put up on another screen for no reason whatsoever because you technically haven't really done anything. It's just a load up of time, and especially with the Switch being the Switch. and everything. It's just like load up, go there, do the fusion, and then come back, and like that's just a waste of time. SMT4 had it so well, like so like on the spot that you don't have to go anywhere. You just go there, and you can save there too. You don't have to do like walk somewhere to save or anything. It was so efficient. Everything about it was efficient.
And it also allowed them to make harder boss battles because they didn't have to worry about, is there a save fight spot here? It's like, well, you should be saving as you go, so we're going to make the fights hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, cool.
Better be saving everywhere. That game gave me like a PTSD of like saving. Oh, like, did I save? I better save again just in case I didn't save the first time. Yeah, that game. Yeah, I don't know. They don't. I hate to be like the Megaten fan, but like they don't make them like they used to.
Well, at least with Nocturne too, where Nocturne was a complete nightmare as far as that goes. But the boss fights were really hard too, though. So I don't know. I'm not saying everything has to be 100% difficult, but I do like a challenge. I do like having to think. I like when there's harder difficulties, and it's just disappointing that SMT5 didn't hit that itch because SMT5, like SMT, the main line to me feels like it should always be like the standard of difficulty for the series.
Yeah,
like they can make it more accessible. They can, like, I don't even care if they implement like more characters or more like little bits of Persona, as long as they don't go full Persona dating sim. I don't mind. I just want the same themes and the difficulty. That's to me what SMT mainline is.
Yeah, and it didn't hit in any of those aspects this
time.
No. Looking back, I don't know. We hated a lot on it, but it's still good. Yeah, it was an interesting game. I'm really curious to see what your opinion is gonna be on Soul Hackers when it comes out.
Like, I'm excited.
I'm really curious what you're gonna say when it comes out. I'm actually really curious to hear everybody's opinion about it because it's gonna be a very divisive game. I'll tell you that much. That game is, people are gonna have some things to say about it, and I'm gonna be all in it.
And either people are gonna love it and it's gonna be like, this was the greatest thing ever, or people are gonna hate it, and then about 6 months later the opinions will flip because it always flips back and forth. This is the most underrated, overrated. This is why this game is the overrated, underrated masterpiece of our generation. Like, that's every game.
It's gonna, every time an Atlus game comes out, it's like it's always so divisive. Like, we just be like, yeah, it was good. Yeah, now it's like it has to be on one of the two streams, right? It's never just like right in the middle, you know. But it's gonna be curious. I'm really curious about everybody's opinion on it. Although I already seen a lot of people hating on it because of the art style. I see people hating on it because of the gameplay, although they haven't actually played the game, but I guess from the previews and everything. One thing that does get me interested is the interview that they did with the developers, and they kind of talked about the inspirations for the game and everything. Like they mentioned things like John Wick and Nier. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. Like because, like you said, it does seem like they did have more of a roadmap for this game. They have a clear vision to what they're looking for, right? And that's something that you really can't see about SMT5 as far as like a vision for the game. But I don't know, very interested. I'm very excited to hear everybody's opinion on it.
Well, especially since the FE Fates, or what it's called, the name just dropped on my head. The freaking Fire Emblem cross SMT that's not even like
yeah.
But everyone really likes the game system in that, and both of those directors worked on the re-release of the game. And I like, as it doesn't have to be difficult as long as the gameplay loop is satisfying. So I'm really looking forward to see if their new take on this really makes me want to keep playing. Like, oh man, I want to keep getting these demons. I want to keep doing this horoscope system they're doing or whatnot. I'm very interested.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. I think it's gonna be very interesting move forward on everything. And I also want to see like what Atlus is planning next, because this is the last game that we know of Atlus, like actual new game, right? Other than that,
except for Project Re Fantasy.
I was gonna say
that doesn't exist. You can't convince me
that game that just like they forgot about it a long time ago. Literally, like 3 people talk about it every day, and like. Other than
soundtrack in full body from it. I was looking at the jukebox and it's like Project Re Fantasy. I was like, we have music from it.
yeah,
It exists.
yeah,
Like,
that is crazy, right? Like, so I'm like, I'm at the point that I'm like, okay, this game better come out like next year. I'm like, because at that point it'll be like 6, 7 years of development. Like, there's something wrong. Like, I don't know, but they listen, recent zero things. But I get it. This whole COVID thing happened, and then a lot of other games were delayed. Like the fact that we got Persona 5 Royal and Strikers on the same like year, that was definitely not supposed to happen.
no.
So there's a bunch of things like that. You're like, okay, shit happens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That we really need that game as soon as possible. I need a trailer. I need something. Give me something, Atlus. A fantasy style Atlus games really excites me. So I really want something.
And maybe one day we'll hear about Persona 6, maybe at the live
Yeah,
concert.
right. Maybe, hopefully someday. It'll be cool to see if they announce Persona 6 before Fantasy, like officially.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, at the end of the day, I never thought I was going to actually get a portable port. So, I mean, I'm happy. Like, I can't say anything.
I was waiting for you to bring it up. I was like, is she gonna bring out the ports? Yeah, yeah. It's cool. It's cool.
I'm happy. I never thought I'd get that port. I was really nervous, although apparently the coding's a mess, so that's probably why. But I was really nervous. I was just, when they really release it as a port or whatever, it won't be portable. And I just want people to play that route. And I'm not saying it has to be your favorite, but I like the experience. And I like recommending it to people. And people are like, what can I play it on? And I'm like, legally? Do you own a PSP? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
I'm gonna see about that. I'm excited for it. I love Persona 3. That's also my favorite game. I feel like most people will say the first game is always gonna be your favorite game.
yeah.
Maybe it's true. I don't know, but I'm maybe biased. I love the game, but I'm excited. I'm excited although I don't know if I'm actually gonna play it again because being in all honesty here, I played it last year. I streamed the entire game again, so I'm like, and I did another playthrough in Spanish in like the Spanish channel. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh, like to me, I'm like, I played this game too much. When I played Persona 4, it actually took me like an entire year to finish that game because I was so burned out on it. Like Persona 4 is one game that I have played a lot. Like I have played it too many times because I had already played it like 4 times on the PS Vita by myself, and I played the Persona 4 in the PlayStation 2 and then PlayStation 3 again. So I played maybe that game maybe like 9 or 10 times total. So I'm like, Persona 4 is one particular like franchise that I'm like completely burnt out on. I don't want any
yeah.
more Persona 4 stuff. I don't want more dancing games. I don't want to see Yuna or Kami on anything anymore. And I'm kind of getting burnt out with Persona 5 too. I'm like, I'm fine if there's one more game that comes out, but I don't want anything else. Like I don't want more stuff. I'm like, I'm tired of it. I want to see something new. To me, I just want Persona 6. I'm like, just give me Persona 6. Like, I'm excited for the ports for people because there's a lot of people that haven't played it and maybe only have a Switch, they don't have a PC or a PlayStation or anything, and they need to play Persona 3, 4, and 5, right? So I'm like, okay, that's very exciting, but to me, that makes me not excited whatsoever. I'm not like, woo, let's go, I want to play Persona 5 for the fourth time. No, I'm fine. Like, I'm probably gonna play it only for review purposes, but as far as like me being on the hype train, I'm like, I'm okay, I'm alright.
And I think I've played Persona 5 times total. I know that I'm burnt out on it too. I know because like I was, you can't see it on my actual PlayStation account because I have a Canadian and an American PlayStation account. So my main one is the American one. You won't see it, but on my Canadian one, I was like top 0.7% of plat. So I played through the game twice when it first came out, in the first month, and then I've played Royal twice. I think I've played Vanilla again a third time. Yeah, I Persona 5 is the one that I think that I can't. It's like I love it, but I think that's also why I don't make as many Persona 5 videos in particular anymore, just because I am burnt out. It's great. I'd love to revisit it, but I want to take a good long break.
Yeah, yeah. I need like 3, 4 years before I want to touch them again. So I'm like, at
Yes.
this point, the only thing is, I talk about Persona news and like Persona stuff every day on the channel. So I'm like, my ex girlfriend at the time girlfriend was like, well, don't you ever get tired of like talking about Persona? I'm like, you know what? Not really. Like, I actually don't get tired of, because there's like there's so many things to talk about Persona, and every day I'm like, I should talk about that, or like I should do this video, and but right now Atlas is like a gold mine of content. Things come out every day. Like, there's literally news about, when I started the channel there was no news about Persona, anything Persona, and Persona 5 Royal came out, like Persona 5 Strikers, like all this Persona stuff, like there's just so many things to talk about. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about, but I myself, as far as like the actual gaming of Persona, I'm pretty burnt out on that. I can talk about it all day, but as far as like actual playing, I'm like, I don't think I can play Persona 3 again for a while. So it's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, my bad.
No,
I was
no.
going to say, I'm just waiting for Persona 2 to re-release. Like, I want an actual English translation that's re-released, not fan translation, where I can just pick up my Switch and play Persona 2. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking at for
Yeah,
Atlas.
that
Atlas,
will
your
be
survey had it tied for 3. So,
make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah, although I don't know, how would you feel about a remake or something like that? Like if they did a remake on the style of Persona 5, but just literally Persona 2.
I think I'd be okay with it. Probably because I haven't played Persona 2. I want to know the story. I wanted, like, Maya's theme is one of my favorite themes
A
in the SMT
banger song. It's such a
series.
banger song, yeah. Every
Like, I listened to it on loop when I was at a regional for Yu-Gi-Oh! A few years ago.
Nice.
I play it when I play Persona 3 Portable. You can change the
Yeah,
battle
you can change
music,
to that.
and I use it. It's a banger. I want to actually play the game, so I have a reason to be like, this is my favorite.
Yeah, people are gonna
So.
call you a fake fan now that you reveal that you haven't played Persona 2.
Well,
And you're like,
I
what?
mean, if they would
What is
release, I mean,
this?
I've played the first part totally legally on my phone, but it's not a very comfortable
It
experience.
is not.
It
It is not.
isn't.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried playing it on my phone before too, and like I hate it. I hate that experience. I do not like touchscreens too much. I've never been a touchscreen fan.
And it's also not optimized for touchscreen at all, so it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. The best of the experiences. So yeah, I totally
No.
agree. That would be really cool if they did it. I particularly have played all the games, but Persona 1 and 2, I've only played them one time. So, like, if they're released again, I will probably replay them again. It's just a matter of how they release the games and, what the time frame will be looking like. But yeah, I will play them again if they did it right. Uh, Atlas, make it happen. Do it as a combo, 3 games together or something. I don't know.
And then
$60.
low-key re-release Devil Survivor.
Those will be good
Just as a
to
side.
release. 1 and 2 or just 1?
I haven't played through 2. I played the first part. I haven't been loving it as far as the cast goes. I mean, the gameplay is nice, but I really liked 1. 1 was really, like, the gameplay was fun, but, like, the story, it wasn't
The
that
characters.
complicated, but I really liked how they wrote the characters.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed within their characters' kind of motivations. I really believed, even when Anzu was being really annoying. It made sense, though, with the fact that, she's a teenage girl stuck in a very scary situation, if you really think about what's going on. And the fact that she does have that breakdown, and it all makes sense. And it was really enjoyable. And it felt like a very, like, if someone was like, think of just a game that's SMT, it felt like that would be what it would be. It's just, there's apocalypse going on, you have to try to save the world somehow, there's demons, and there's just a bunch of people trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's why I like this game so much. Because this is unlike any other SMT game, in the sense that the apocalypse is currently happening.
Yes.
Which is different from other Megaten games where the apocalypse already happened. Typically, is one on the two extremes, right? It's either they're trying to stop the apocalypse, or that the apocalypse already happened, and it's kind of like a new world or whatever, right? But Devil Survivor is in that weird spot where the apocalypse is currently happening. So you're like in a different experience. Not just that, but you see a lot of people in, like you're literally in the heart of Tokyo, right? And you see everybody like freaking out and like all this stuff going, especially in the first few days in the game, because the game is divided by days, kind of like Persona, but not really. And in the first few days, you really see a lot of people, all of the like the freak out. It almost feels like I you see the meme or like comparison with that and like COVID and everything, when everybody's freaking out and everything. You seen that meme?
I don't know if I have.
There's a meme where they reference like it's basically like a screenshot of Devil Survivor, but they talk about like kind of like being in like an emergency kind of thing and everything. It was really relatable at the time. It almost felt like I was like, yeah, kind of, that's kind of how it feels like that. And so yeah, that's like the peak moment of everybody freaking out, not knowing what to do, and most of the cast are like teenagers too. So you have
But you have
genuine
some
reactions.
great adult relationships too.
Yeah,
There's some
yeah.
great, like there's a very good balance of
Yeah.
both.
There's a good balance of like the young adults and their stuff, but also the adults that you meet along the way or the people that you interact with in their own like reactions and motivations and everything. So it's a very interesting game. I don't think Atlus has released many games that are like Devil Survivor. Because that's where I feel like that's why Atlus is considered. Those games are considered like the peak of like the 3DS era kind of the time frame.
Yeah.
A lot of people consider that like the peak of like Megaten, because a lot of the games that were coming out were like pretty serious, but also like very interesting subjects. Have you played Strange Journey?
I haven't yet.
You should. That I
I should.
strongly recommend you playing that one, especially because of everything that we talked about. Strange Journey is like has like one of the best adult cast in Atlas. I love it. Some of the characters are very very interesting, especially like on the what do you call the law chaos routes and the characters that represent the routes. They are like very interesting characters, and they do such a good job. It's a very different type of Megaten game. Also, another game that I don't think they ever will probably make again.
Well, I mean, and luckily I have it on one of our 3DSs. Uh, they are taking everything down off the eShop, so if anyone needs to, they should go and grab those games. They were on sale. I don't know if they're going to go back on sale, but you should definitely grab them. One of the one spoiler for Devil Survivor, if anyone's interested in playing, there's different routes, which is very SMT. Depending on the route, you get different party members. One of the routes, you can have a Jack Frost variant as a party member, not just a demon. So it's worth playing.
You heard it here. If you are a Jack Frost fan, you can have your very own Jack Frost companion.
Yeah, he's a character. He's in your party. It's the only game where he's actually like a party member, not just a demon. He like controls his own demons. I mean, you control it for him, but he has his own demon party. It's worth it.
Very very interesting. Alrighty, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for coming, Lola. We had a really good discussion with everything Megaten and Atlas here today. Guys, thank you so much for coming by. We do have some questions for you, with not a lot, but if you guys have any additional questions, you can drop them now. So we can ask those to Lola. They ask you for your favorite Persona game. Was that Persona 3 Portable?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's portable. Now, I haven't played 1 and 2 fully, so but out of the ones I've played, I think portable is my favorite.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the next question was opinions on Persona 2. Did you have any opinions on Persona 2 from what you've seen?
From what I've seen, from what I've read, I really like it. I love the themes. I love the plot synopsis. I love Maya. I want to play it. I want to have a comfortable way to play it.
No, I agree.
So, so I love it in concept. I want to play it. That is
We'll
my
see if
review, I
your
suppose.
opinion changes once you actually play it. I'll be curious. No, I think it's a great game. I really like it a lot. I just do not like the gameplay very much. I'm not a fan of it. So they're asking, why are we not getting a Persona 3 Fest remaster? So
I
why do you
would
think?
say, based off of what I've read, the source code is a mess and kind of lost. So that makes it very difficult to just kind of port because they would have to recode things. And at that point, you may as well remake the game. So
Yeah.
that would probably be my guess, is that it's a mess behind the scenes and it's just a lot easier to portable.
So my idea has actually nothing to do with like development or any of that stuff. I just feel like the fact that they're using a female protagonist in all the Persona 25th anniversary stuff and everything, it leads me to believe that they just committed to it. You know, to have her as a canonical protagonist to the series. So the
Yeah, I
only
mean, it was a
game,
big deal with
yeah.
Q2 that she
Mhm.
was involved. Now, Q2 is not as good as Q. As much as I
Yeah,
love the Persona, it's just
unfortunately,
not great.
yeah.
But it was a big deal she was included.
Mhm.
So I feel like they are following up on that, like you
Yeah,
said.
so to me, I just feel like they have decided that Persona 3 Portable is like the ultimate, I guess, if you will, like edition of the game for now. And I just feel like there was no win-win situation for if you release Persona 3 Fest. Some people would have been also upset that they didn't get Persona 3 Portable. So I think Atlus just picked one of the two. They were just like, okay, either way, nobody's gonna be happy. Somebody's gonna be upset about it. So I think they made the right choice. I know some people feel that they didn't want portable or anything, but at least again, you get two. At least you can play the game twice. Like that's one game that you can actually repeat play and get a different experience the second time you play it. So in that sense, I feel like that's the best out of the two worlds, if you will.
And you have Theo and bonus boss battles, so
There you go.
there's
More
that.
reason to play it. So alrighty, favorite soundtrack.
Oh, that's hard. Because my completely biased opinion would be for portable, because Lotus Juice is amazing. But I think it non-biasly, like, you have to say Persona 5. I think they had a bigger budget with it. I think
Yeah, you can
they
clearly
had a
see
much bigger
the
budget.
production quality of the game is like it's really masterfully produced. Like volume, like actually, like the actual quality of the songs and the music is just better. Like straight up, like there's probably no debate on that. Like they definitely had more budget. uh,
And I mean, my favorite song would be No More What Ifs. I think that is the reason I like Royal. That
yeah,
is like, that is just, it's so good. Lynn is so good in it. I love it.
yeah, and it also like it really like it ties so well into like Akechi's character. Although I fucking hate Akechi, when I listened to the song, I was like, yeah, that's I vibe to this song.
And they reference Persona 3 in it. They said, someone once said, burn your dread bait.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
And
That's
it's like,
true.
oh, they like, it's a great callback.
Yeah, it's a good callback to the other game for sure. But anyway, that it looks like that's all the questions that we have for today. Thank you so much for coming again, Lola. I appreciate it. You guys can click on the ad there. Although, oh, actually, we do have another question. Okay, well. I guess we'll have one more question there. We'll answer it then. What are your thoughts on them dropping the name Phantom Society in the Soul Hackers 2 trailer? A big giveaway, and why are the Phantom Thieves will be in the game? No, the Phantom Society isn't the Phantom Thieves. Phantom Society is very different from that. It's no relation to the Phantom Thieves. So
I think it's like an FBI type situation. Like, if you've seen Doctor Who, it's like a Torchwood type situation. It's a organization that's
so
doing its own thing.
yeah. So Phantom Society actually isn't from Persona 5. Persona's 2. I'm sorry, it's not from Persona. It's from Soul Hackers. They show up on Soul Hackers, the first game, as well. So it is not a Persona thing. It has nothing to do with Persona. I wouldn't expect them to be. It's like there's another uh, there's another organization, if you will, called Yatagarasu as well, and it's also from the other Devil Summoner games. So no relation to Persona or anything like that. Don't expect Persona to show up on it or anything like that. But good question. Very. I don't know if people expected that to be like a Persona thing or anything, but no. The Phantom Society is from the old game. It's a group of Devil Summoners from the old game. So yeah, I mean that was an interesting question. But anyway, thank you so much for coming by, guys. Go check out her channel if you guys want to subscribe for more content. She does some interesting videos pertaining to psychology, and I don't know. Do you have any plans for future videos or anything like that you want to do in the future?
Well, I probably will talk about Soul Hackers too if I really like the story. I eventually want to make a Catherine Full Body video. I really enjoyed the plot and the story and the characters in that game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Obviously, if Persona 6 comes out, that'll be a thing. And I'm sure if I replay Portable, I'll have some stuff to say as
Yeah,
well.
we have to do a video on that as well. The return of Persona 3, the king. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming by. Yeah, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye.